from a caged mind will spring, a movie whose praises many sing, about a treasure hidden in history. Join us now, and you will see.
We just watched National Treasure.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Interesting choice of words.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the beak! Not the beak! Ah! Oh, my God. I'm a pixie pear! Okay, let's run.
This is The Unbearable Fate of Massive Talent. I'm Brittany Green.
And I'm Liz Kurtzman.
And you asked for it, so we did it. We watched National Treasure.
And this is one that, I mean, people...
Legendary. I was saying before we started this, I don't believe I've watched this movie basically since it came out, and it was probably one of my earliest, most memorable Nicolas Cage experiences, and I did not like it, so I was kind of excited
Interesting.
I was kind of excited to watch it with a different lens than I had when I saw it the first time. I found it much more enjoyable this time, I think.
Good, because I enjoy this one. This was, when it came out, like, I don't think we had a copy of it in our house, but I remember watching it on TV, and for some reason, we watched it at school a lot, like in my high school.
There's a lot of history in this movie.
But we watched it in, like, choir.
We watched Shrek a lot.
Yeah, Shrek was another one.
Finding Nemo we watched a lot.
No, ours was Flubber.
Oh, I loved Flubber.
Flubber was great, but we watched it so many times.
That was one of my favorite movies in, like, elementary school. I never watched that one in school, though.
I think that, like, it seems like every school had, like, 5 VHS or DVDs that they just traded.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish Flubber had been one of them. I love that movie.
Yeah, watched that one a lot.
I watched that one on repeat at my grandma's
elementary,
house.
Middle school.
I remember, because of Flubber, Robin Williams was my favorite actor when I was a kid.
Makes sense.
And, like, Aladdin, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember telling my mom that I like Robin Williams because he's funny like my daddy.
Aww.
Which is very cute. I would not say now.
Does not hold up?
That does not hold up. My dad is funny, but not nearly in the same way. But not
Robin Williams.
Not Robin Williams.
Very few people are, to be fair.
That's a very specific brand of funny.
I loved Robin Williams, but because of Hook.
Oh, Hook's great.
I love Hook. Anyway, National Treasure.
National Treasure.
This is actually the one we're talking about.
We'll talk about a dozen other movies.
So this is from 2004, and it was directed by John Turteltaub, one of the most fake-sounding names that I've ever seen.
He sounds like a man turtle.
Yes! It's like one of those
I definitely
scenes...
picture, like, Dana Carvey in his
turtle club suit.
Master of Disguise.
You're just, like, picturing a Mitch McConnell-esque looking man. I'm sure he looks normal. This was part of the, like, Cypher's treasure hunting obsession in the early 2000s that I would say, like, the Da Vinci Code and the Mummy movies. Like, I feel like there was a real... And the Freemasons. People were obsessed with the Freemasons in the early 2000s. There were so many conspiracies.
Yeah. Mostly because of the Da Vinci Code and this movie, probably.
There were a lot of books that were written. Like, I actually saw... This was a fact I found out when I was reading trivia for the movie. But there was... And I've definitely not just seen it here, but in other... I think in the Da Vinci Code, they also say that the Knights Templar... became the Freemasons eventually. Like, but it's not historically accurate. The Knights Templar existed for a very short time, I mean, historically speaking, from, like, 1119 to 1312. And
that's
then they
a solid two. That's pretty... If I started a cult, I'd be pretty happy that it's lasted for 200 years.
If it was a cult, but that was just, like, a knight order.
It was like a club.
It's an order of knights.
Like and then a club. What's the difference?
All right, sure. It was a religious club. But then they were destroyed by the European royalty. And then the Freemasons probably started around 1390 or more likely 1425. So that's 100 years after the end of the Templars.
Okay.
The origin of that myth comes from this writer, Andrew Michael Ramsey, who wrote a false history book. So that's where a lot of those theories come from.
And people were like, yeah, this is real.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the Freemasons?
I mean, I read the Da Vinci Code and I was pretty into it.
Didn't we all?
Yeah. At the time.
Didn't we all? I had my great-grandfather, who I never met, was a Freemason.
Huh.
But, like,
did he have lots of secrets?
I don't think so. I
think now the Freemasons are like a bunch of old guys drinking together. Yeah, exactly.
You get to put the symbol on your grave, and you get to go to their hall to have parties.
And I think up until maybe very recently, you couldn't be a woman and be a Freemason. Maybe that's still true.
That could still be true. I don't know. Yeah, but because
I feel like I read, like, an inspirational story about a woman who became a Freemason.
Wow, what an inspiration. She's really breaking boundaries. Breaking that stone ceiling.
Yep. But I could be remembering incorrectly.
Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of the conspiracy theories about Masons was because they literally were the ones that carved most of the, like, grand buildings in Europe and a lot of important statues and landmarks, and so their symbols are everywhere, and people were like...
The symbols are weird,
and they would do weird stuff, but it's like, why not? It's your signature.
Have you been to the airport in Denver?
No. I want to go.
You would love the Denver airport. Lots of Freemason symbols there.
Are there?
Yes.
Oh,
and it wasn't even built that long ago. It was built during George W.'s presidency.
Yeah.
It's so weird, and I bet if they made a National Treasure 3, my vote is that they have to go to the
They have to go through the Denver airport.
Yeah.
It's like sitting on top of... The current theory is that it's like...
not super historical, though.
No, but, like, the current theory is that it's on top of, like, a nuclear bunker.
Yeah.
But, like, what if they were actually on top of some sort of, like, treasure bunker?
Yeah.
And they built it to keep it safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big part of this movie. This movie starts out with a thing I forgot, which is that Christopher Plummer plays Ben's grandfather. Grandpa Gates. I think his name is John Adams Gates.
You were talking at the beginning of this movie about how annoying the Gates family names are.
I'm furious about their names.
So, what's his dad's name again?
I don't know if they ever say his dad's name, but I think it's Patrick Henry.
Okay. So, here's the thing. Patrick Henry, if that is his name, his dad, seems like he's not into this stuff, but still named his son Benjamin Franklin Gates.
Yeah, but maybe when his son was born, he was, and then he got burned out on it or something.
Could be. He was definitely burnt out on it by the time Grandpa was telling him the story.
Yeah.
When he was probably, like, I don't know, like 10?
Yeah, Ben was like 10, and his dad was probably meant to be, like, in his 30s. It was a hard 30.
Yeah.
Because they
just gave him a wig.
They gave him a blondish wig. And that was, like, longer. And, like, honestly, I'd rather they do that.
Dad played by Jon Voight.
Yes. Important to say that Dad is Jon Voight, who's doing a great job in this film. Honestly, I prefer when they just, like, stick a wig on someone to pretend that they're younger than, like, when they de-age them.
I mean, it wouldn't have looked good if they had done that.
No. I mean, they didn't do that all in the early 2000s. But, like, looking now... where I've seen a bunch of movies recently where they de-age people to play.
I'm kind of curious when the first movie is that they did de-age somebody. I feel like Benjamin Button comes to mind, but I feel like it probably happened before that.
I do remember one of the first times I saw it was X-Men, the third X-Men movie, I think? The Apocalypse one. Maybe that was the fourth one. It's one of them where, like, there's a... Oh, no, it was the third one because it was the Phoenix one where Jean Grey turns into the Phoenix. Yeah. There's an opening scene that's got young Charles and Xavier in it, and they de-aged Patrick Stewart, and it, even at the time, I was like, he looks strange.
They didn't use James McAvoy in that one?
No, this was before those movies were made.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the third X-Men in the original trilogy, this is before First Class, so that would have been like 2010, 2009, maybe?
Okay, so that might have been before Benjamin Button.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could have been around the same time, but I just remember that being the first one I saw and being like, on the one hand being like, wow, that's cool, but on the other hand being like, but he looks like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look like a young man. Anyway, Jon Voight was not de-aged. He just has a bad wig on.
He's just like, how do you do, fellow kids?
Exactly. Yeah, so he gets, he tells Ben the story of the Gates family and their quest.
Grandpa Gates.
Grandpa Gates tells the story to Ben about the quest for the treasure of the Knights Templar. Supposedly, their great, however many greats, grandfather was like a servant, I think, to this guy. Ooh, I forget his name. Charles. something.
One of the founding fathers.
It is. Did you notice that's the house he buys at the end?
Really? Oh,
yeah,
that makes sense.
He's like, you know, he points out the house and he's like, well, it's interesting. It's Charles blah, blah, blah's house. And then he's like, whatever, I don't care. So he's like dying and he tries to tell President Andrew Jackson some secret, and he dies before he can. So he tells his servant that the secret lies with Charlotte. And so the Gates family has like been carrying this around for like 200 years, being like, we've got to find the treasure, but they can't ever figure out who Charlotte is. In retrospect,
smash cut.
Crazy that no one thought of this in the family.
It's been 200 years,
like,
right?
Someone at some point would have to be like, what if it's not a person?
Yeah.
Like, what if there was not a person, it was a thing, and no one did?
How long do you think that ship has been missing? The captain was wearing a pirate hat.
Well, they had to, I mean, the ship had to be built during the 1700s, and presumably didn't get lost too long after the American Revolution, because it would have been decommissioned after, you know, it's a wooden ship.
Yeah.
So, probably not even... It probably got lost before 1800.
Yeah, do you think it was missing already? Do you think it was missing already when he was telling him that the secret left with Charlotte, or the secret is with Charlotte or something?
Oh, here's the thing. There was a Charlotte. Charlotte was an English merchant ship built on the River Thames in 1784.
Okay.
Which feels too late.
They're hiding the key to the treasure.
Because this would have been in the 1770s. Because of the American Revolution.
Right.
So, anyway, she was lost off Newfoundland in 1818.
Okay.
So, I guess we don't know exactly when they...
It probably is that
when
boat,
they hid
right?
the treasure? I mean, it's...
Well, we know they hid the treasure to keep it from the British.
I know, but, like... Was that before the Revolution? During the Revolution?
It was around the Revolution.
Which... When did the Revolution end?
Like 1780, I think.
Yeah,
they signed the Declaration in 1776.
1783.
Cool.
So, the Revolution ended before that ship was built. What did I just say? When did it... Oh my god.
We're gonna solve this mystery,
We're never gonna find
guys.
the treasure.
If we try to fact check this whole movie.
The Revolution ended the year before that ship was launched. So, why would they put it... Unless it was hidden somewhere else.
The thing that it was actually hidden was the pipe, which probably
the pipe could have existed
that.
before, and then it ended up on the ship somehow, and then he was like, oops.
Because that guy wasn't telling him about where it went until 1817.
You're right, because that was when Andrew Jackson was president.
Yeah.
It's all coming together now. We got it, guys. We're gonna find it.
I like that he came up with another, like... cryptic clue to hide the location of the pipe.
Because you're right, it's not... The Secret Lies with Charlotte is not one of these, like, rhyming clues that we have later. It's just, like, a line he made up, but he didn't go...
As he's dying.
The HMS Charlotte?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, then we smash cut to the Arctic.
Yeah.
And we've got grown-up Ben, our man Nicolas Cage, and Riley, who is
our zany tech nerd sidekick.
Yeah, he's the comic relief in this movie. I had a crush on him when I was in high school. I mean, I liked every snarky character. Mm-hmm. You know, I always liked the snarky guys. Unfortunately, I have a type. Now, when I watch it, I'm like, that's the worst facial hair.
It's not good.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Like the weird little like soul patchy.
Oh,
kind of
it's
thing.
like because it's like a soul patch, but there's like a line.
Yeah.
Down to the chin, to this chin beard. Oof, not a good look, people. Sean Bean though looks great.
Sean Bean always looks great.
Sean Bean has a bunch of henchmen. They're all looking for the wreckage of the Charlotte, which Ben has figured out is a ship. And they find it embedded in the ice. They're very lucky it didn't sink.
Yeah.
Like, there's been a bunch of because there have been a lot of ships lost in the Arctic that have been found, but they are generally far under the ocean and not like sitting in the ice. So they're lucky. Sorry, my cat.
The cat was obviously about to jump on the stove.
And now she's trapped under a blanket. Oh my god.
I don't think you made this better.
I did. Get out of there.
She seemed like she was just gonna chill in there.
She knows she's not allowed because she jumps on the oven and then she jumps on top of the fridge.
That doesn't seem
and
like a great
she
place.
knocks stuff off and then she gets stuck up there. So she's not allowed to jump up there. And she knows it. Anyway, the Charlotte's in the Arctic.
And it's not sunk.
And it's not sunk.
Under a relatively low layer of snow.
Yes.
And he magically finds exactly where the sign of the ship is when he's digging.
Yeah, somehow, I think he has a metal detector.
Yeah.
And then the bell of the ship is sitting right under the snow with the name at the top. Perfect. It's gorgeous.
And he uses his water bottle to, like, rinse the snow off. And I'm like, that would freeze immediately.
Yeah, it's not cold enough up there. Everyone's face is out. They're using water.
Have you ever seen the TikToks of people who are on, like, Antarctic missions?
Yeah.
And stuff where they'll, like, go out and they'll, like, have a pair of pants or something and they shake them out and they're frozen instantly.
Yeah.
And, like...
I do think it was supposed to be summer in the Arctic, which means it's probably only slightly sub-zero. Because it was sunny. Then they they dig up the ship, they get inside, it's filled with gunpowder and seemingly nothing else.
Yeah, why is the ship only carrying gunpowder?
So it can explode. And Ben uncovers there's this like really elaborate ivory pipe that is hidden, and so he finds it. And
inside of a thing of
gunpowder. Was there like carving on it with the clue?
On the pipe?
On the pipe.
Yes.
Okay.
It was carved in there, and then he uses his blood to, like, put it on the side of the mouthpiece part of the pipe and roll it onto a piece of paper.
Yeah, really intense. I feel like he could have used something else.
He didn't need to use blood.
No. And then we
need a liquid thing that will...
Yeah. So, we're not going to redo, like, all the clues in this, because there's just too many. But I will, tell you that this one, so you can get an idea of, like, the way they all sound. The legend writ, the stain affected, the key in silence undetected, 55 in iron pen, Mr. Matlock can't offend. So there are all these, like, rhyming things with, like, people's names hidden in there, like, as words. Which was my inspiration for our opening.
In case you didn't
pick it up. The beautiful poem that I wrote. But this part is incredible because Nicolas Cage just sits down and just starts like...
He just figures it out.
He's just like word salad, it's like word association.
Somebody do a crossword or something.
I said it was like watching people in an escape room.
Oh, absolutely.
Like he's just sitting there going, okay, it's a pen, iron, what's an iron pen? Oh, they used iron ink, but also iron could mean like steadfast. What it's writing is law. The Declaration. Then suddenly he's just like, there's a map on the back of the Declaration, and I'm like, what? How do we get here? So they realize there's a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. And
everyone knows this.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this about the movie.
That's the one thing everyone knows.
Everyone knows that this is the movie where they steal the Declaration of Independence.
Where Nicolas Cage says, we're going to steal the Declaration of Independence. But not here, because this is where they have a difference of opinion.
Right.
Because Sean Bean and his cronies are like, well, turns out we're actually criminals. We're not just rich people. Sean Bean.
Or Sean
Bon.
I like Sean Bon better than Sean Bon.
Sean Bon does his classic double cross in this. Like, you know, until he was in Game of Thrones, like everything I ever saw him in.
He was doing a double... Wasn't he in The Italian Job?
No, that was Edward Norton.
Oh, you're right.
But he was in Lord of the Rings.
Obviously.
And he betrays them. And then I think he's in a Bond movie.
Okay.
And also double crosses them. And he's just like... He's got the balance of, like, charisma, but also can be, like, chilling.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he just gets put in that role all the time. And he's good at it.
He is.
So they blow him up and leave him there, but somehow Riley and Ben get back to warm land. That's not clear how.
Yeah, I guess as he's driving away, he's like, let's get away from here before somebody sees the smoke. And I'm like, who's going to see the smoke in the Arctic?
There's like 5 people in the Arctic. Do you think one of them is going to just be like, oh, look at that?
Look at all that smoke.
But
did they tell anybody, do you think, that they found this ship from the early 1800s?
No. I mean, I'm sure later, after...
Like, how many guys did they have with them to dig that thing out? Because we were talking about it.
Like
it's going to take weeks, if not months, to dig that out.
It seemed like there were 5 people, which is crazy, because it would take them
It was like
weeks.
A whole archaeological dig.
Yeah.
In the Arctic.
Especially if you're digging it out and not collapsing it.
Right.
They just... I don't know how they did it. But this movie seemingly takes place over the course of, like, 3 days.
Except for the Arctic stuff.
Except for the Arctic stuff.
Once they steal the Declaration, from then on, I think it's
24 hours.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. They travel so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they start, obviously, in D.C., and then they go to Philly, and then they go to New York, and then they go to Boston, technically.
Technically, that's past the 24 mark, probably. But, yeah. It's wild. Yeah, so so Ben and Riley go to DC, and they're trying to warn someone that that Ian and his crew are going to steal the Declaration, and no one takes them very seriously. But that's when we meet Abigail, who is in some position of authority at the National Archive.
Dr. Abigail Chase. She's
yes.
like, maybe she's the director of the archive or something.
Maybe, or like the chief archivist or something like that.
Yeah.
And she is a beautiful German woman who played...
Pennsylvania Dutch?
Yes.
Pennsylvania Dutch people don't sound that German.
They don't sound like that German. They sound odd. Like... They have, like, a slight accent, but it's sort of German, but, like...
That's, like, one of the few things I remembered from this movie. Over a decade and a half, was I remembered the part where he's, like, Pennsylvania Dutch. That's, like, one of the things that stuck with me.
Why not? Because it's bananas that he would ask her that. Yeah. He's like, oh, head of the archive? Are you Pennsylvania Dutch? No,
German.
I'm German. She played Helen of Troy.
Yeah,
in Troy.
I like that actress. I feel like she's been in a few things.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. She's definitely done a lot of work since then, but I don't remember what else she's done. But yeah, she's great, and instant chemistry. I will say, I do think they have chemistry in this movie.
I thought they were good together.
Yeah, some movies it's sort of like.
I feel like when we first started this podcast, most of the movies we watched early on, he had phenomenal chemistry with all of the actresses, and I feel like it's kind of dropped off a little bit.
Yeah, there's some we've done where they have no chemistry, and this one, they're great. So, because no one believes them, and they think that if Ian takes the Declaration, he'll end up destroying it, they decide to steal it first. So we have our heist.
Oh, she's in Inglourious Bastards, too. Can't leave that one off.
Yeah, she gets choked by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we have our heist, our big heist moment where they're planning like.
I can't believe that this is so early in the movie. It's like the big thing. Right?
Well, you think about this movie has
there's
everything.
A lot of big things.
Yeah, I was like, this movie's got planes, trains, and automobiles basically. No trains, but helicopters, Arctic caterpillars, I guess. They're like the tank thing. Yeah. And then you've got boats and underground things, cars. There's a big car chase in an upcoming scene. We got a heist scene. We've got our Indiana Jones moment at the end. Like, they got everything here. Yeah, so they decide that they're going to steal it during this like big gala that they're having at the National Archive. And so they,
How do you think he got into that? Because he didn't make a big donation the way that he said.
No, he does at the beginning. He goes in as a maintenance guy.
Oh.
They make that fake...
Pulls, like, the suit off, and then he's got his tux underneath.
and then he's got a tux underneath.
God, I can't believe I missed that somehow, because my favorite thing is, like, a James Bond costume change, where they take off one layer, and there's, like, a beautiful layer of something else underneath it.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful tux underneath.
Yeah.
He just walks in the front door with a maintenance uniform and then slips into the tux, and they've set up all this stuff so that they can get her fingerprints, and then they figured out her password, and they're doing pretty good, but they don't realize that Ian and his team are also choosing this night to take the Declaration. They butt heads, and by that I mean he literally shoots at him. And then there's one of my favorite things is the switcheroo.
The switcheroo is really good. I want to skip back a little bit to when he runs into Abigail in the gala, and he makes that weird toast that is basically like, I'm about to steal the Declaration of Independence because it's the right thing to do.
Yes, he like stares into her eyes and is just like, sometimes like the Founding Fathers, we have to make a decision that seems wrong for the right reason. Anyway, here's some champagne. And it's like...
She's like, that was weird.
Okay. And it's sort of like, he's like, I think you're hot, and I don't want you to think badly of me.
Yeah.
So, just so you know, and then because he was weird, and then she realizes his name, which he gave her a fake name, isn't on the list, she goes looking for him and follows him out. And there's a moment where he has, like, evaded Ian and is in the gift shop. And he's got, like, the Declaration hidden in his coat. And, like, the gift shop lady is like, are you stealing that?
It's unclear to me if the thing he was... Because he said he paid for it twice.
I think what happened was he was just hiding in there. She thought it was one of the...
Fake ones.
And so...
Did he grab another one after he, like, looked like he was stealing the fake
I think what happened was because he was trying to pay in cash and he didn't have enough cash. And she was like, you're going to have to use a Visa. And... So I think once he had to pay with a card, he was like, might as well get two.
Yeah.
And then he uses one of them as a decoy.
Which is great. I think that's really fun.
That's one of my favorite little switcheroos.
That part feels like one of the smarter parts of this movie.
Yes, yeah. So Abigail follows him out, realizes he has the Declaration, takes it back from him, which is really just the decoy one. But then Ian and his crew show up and try to take the decoy one from her because they don't know. And they're in this, like, food truck.
Yeah.
So she gets pulled into the food truck. And then Ben is like, well, we gotta save her. And Riley's like, do we have to save her? And then we have, like, a chase through the streets of Washington, D.C. Riley does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Doing a street chase. I said, okay, girl, go for it. Good job.
Riley is a pretty useful sidekick.
He is.
All things told.
He
basically
clueless.
comes up with the plan for how they're going to steal the Declaration of Independence because he like finds all the blueprints and stuff in the National Archive. And...
Yeah. He's clearly good at the tech stuff. Just it's after that scene they don't do a lot of tech stuff.
No.
So he's mostly just like following behind, asking questions for the audience, like being the audience proxy. I wrote this here. They gave Abigail some raccoon eyes for the gala. Like, she has a beautiful black dress on, and then she just has, like, black eyeliner on her eyelids, and it looks crazy. And you said this, that was probably just early 2000s smoky eye.
Yeah.
It looks bananas to me now.
I think I did a photo shoot as a kid where I wore basically black eyeshadow, and it kind of looked like that.
Incredible.
I was like, this looks so good.
So they get Abigail back, and this is when Harvey Keitel shows up.
Love him. He's my favorite character in the movie.
He's good. He's at everything. Every time he enters a scene, I'm like, excellent. The quality of the movie's gone up 100%.
Yeah, so Harvey Keitel is the on the case with the FBI, higher up in the FBI apparently than the people they tried to tell that they were going to steal the Declaration of Independence. Because it was my favorite thing when somebody's like, we got a tip from somebody that they were going to steal the Declaration of Independence. He's like, who gave the tip? And he was like, we didn't open a file because we thought it was ridiculous.
He's like, and what do you think now? But because Ben used his card, they now have his name.
Right.
So they can't take the Declaration back. They set up like a clean room in his apartment, but they can't go back there because they know him now. So they are forced to go to Ben's dad's house.
Well, they also needed to get the silenced do-gooder letters, which they thought that their dad had a copy of.
Yes, yeah. Ben realized...
Doesn't that seem like something you could probably just Google someplace?
Yes, well, now.
Yeah.
In 2004, maybe...
They had Google in 2004.
Yes, but, like, not all, like, now, if you don't, it's like the idea of a historical document not being scanned onto the internet seems crazy, but, like, I don't know in 2004 if they would have been scanned on the internet. I would be surprised, though, if they weren't at least typed up somewhere.
Right.
That's the thing, is
Go to a library.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they would have to go all the way to Philadelphia.
Like...
But they needed to get them to Philadelphia.
Everything about Benjamin Franklin is already somewhere.
Yes.
Right?
They had to get to Philadelphia because then they have to, like, go to the Liberty Bell.
Right.
So...
Why not go and see the actual Silence do-gooder letters?
Yeah.
But yeah, they go to the dad's house and he's not happy about it.
Also, his house is gorgeous.
It's very nice.
They're in D.C.
We were talking about this. The whole family acts like their lives have been ruined because of this conspiracy. They all seem to be doing pretty good. Because later, like, Ben Gates, as you mentioned, has a $9,000 watch.
Yes.
And, like, his dad lives in a really nice house in D.C. And it seemed like the house that they were in when he was, like, with his grandpa was pretty nice, too. That might have been his dad's house, too. But
yeah. But, yeah, and, like, there are all these beautiful, like, antiques and stuff in his dad's house, and, like, a big house like that, at least near Washington, D.C.
Seems like overall the family's not doing too bad.
Yeah.
I don't know what Ben Gates' day job is.
They never tell us what his day job is. They mention at the beginning that he's trained in, like...
diving.
Yeah, they're like... It's not... He wasn't in the military, but he's taken, like, naval diving... he's trained in, like, naval diving and recovery and stuff, and, like... I just, like, don't understand. I mean, the most logical thing is that they were both, like, history teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could see his dad being a history professor... Maybe history professors like at Georgetown make that kind of money, you know, but...
Especially if you're tenured.
Especially if you're an old tenured man in 2004. But it was kind of crazy because, like, I think halfway through the movie we were just like, they both seem to be doing, like, they have disposable income.
For sure.
Like, I don't know if they need the treasure. So they go to his dad's house, but they don't tell him they have the Declaration. They just tell him that they have a clue on the back of a historical document. And, like, at this point is when Abigail gets, like, pulled in. Like, up to this point, she's gone with them because she wants to make sure the Declaration is safe. And, like, he's like, you can have it back after we look at it. But then once they find a symbol on the back in, like, invisible ink, and this is when Ben fell in love with her. Was when he's watching her do, like, archival stuff, and she, like, takes the lemon juice and is, like, swabbing it and is talking about, like, I don't know, paper. And he's just, like, staring at her. And I'm like, he's so turned on right now. Like, he is so into this. And then they both, like, his dad's like, you need heat to activate it. So they both lean over and breathe together on the spot. And I was like, this is very sexy.
Pretty hot. Breathing on the Declaration.
And I was like,
of
this is when they fell in love.
Absolutely.
So yeah, they find a bunch of the cipher on the back, and so they're writing down all the numbers and talking about what they're going to do next, and they're going to have to go to Philadelphia, and this is when his dad finds out that it's the Declaration.
In a great moment where he's
just
like, this is pretty old, he picks it up.
And they're all like, no.
Oh god, it's the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, because he's like suggesting, like, he doesn't know what it is, so he's like, just put it in the oven, and they're like, no! I like the part when he's like, what is that, animal skin? That looks pretty old. And he's like, pretty darn old. Yeah.
At least 200
At least 200 years. Are you sure?
Yes.
So then they tie him up to make it look like
he wasn't part of
abetting
them.
But he doesn't tell the FBI where he's going. One of the other fun things they do with the script in this movie is that there's sort of 3 different groups that we're following that are all sort of racing against each other. So we've got, like, Ben Reilly and Abigail, and then Ian and his evil henchman, and then you've got the FBI people with Harvey Keitel.
And I was talking, when I noticed this going on, that they should make escape rooms where you compete against other teams, where you're all trying to solve the same mystery at the same time, because that's kind of what this movie was.
Yeah.
One of you could even give them roles. They could be trying to catch
Harvey Keitel.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, a clever thing that they do.
Maybe everybody has different pieces at the beginning. You know?
Yeah.
I think that would be really fun.
That would be really fun.
We've got a business idea now.
Yeah. Could be like a scavenger hunt thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Racing through the city looking for Freemason symbols.
God, yeah, let's do it. The Amazing Race, National Treasure Edition. The other clever thing that they do with this is the FBI sort of becomes their way to explore or to explain historical stuff sometimes. Like, the FBI will find something and be like, what is this? And then, like, some other FBI person will look it up and be like, I guess Silence Dogood was this, like, alias that Benjamin Franklin used to write all these letters to, like, a newspaper. And, you know, so they're dropping the history in that way. So it's not just Ben explaining everything all the time.
Better way to drop exposition than just having it all come from Riley.
Yes. And not just Riley being like, what?
And then either Abigail or Ben explaining the history.
Yep. And then we have the other, this is also clever, the little boy that they pay.
Oh, yeah. To go and, like, count the words or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, they have him go into the museum because they're all sort of wanted. Or at least Ben is. I don't know if they figured out who Riley is yet.
It seems like they only ever know about Ben.
I think so, because they just have his credit card.
Yeah.
And I don't think his dad...
They don't...
Well, they do know about Dr. Abigail because she left with them.
Right.
But I don't know if they know
who
Riley is.
I feel like it's weird that it takes so long for them to find out about Ian because it's like there's no security cameras outside of the National Archives or something, and there's got to be security cameras all over DC.
Yeah,
like they don't find footage of them escaping in the van; they just see the stuff inside the gift shop.
Yeah, because they which
feels dishonest. We should know that there's security cameras all over DC.
Yeah, you're right, because they explain away the security cameras inside the building,
right? Because those have been disabled by
Ian's team disables them. But you're right, there would be some outside that they
would have known about this chase that happened.
Yeah, they would have been like, oh,
she's like, why were they shooting guns at each other inside of the National Archive?
He figures out that there's...
Why was there a crazy chase scene by 100 people in downtown Washington, D.C.? There was a lady hanging off the back of the food truck.
No one saw that. That was on the back streets. There are no back streets in Washington, D.C. Yeah, so they end up in Philadelphia. Riley is paying this little kid to run in and, look at the letters and then come back and give him the clues. Super underpaying that kid.
$1 for each word, basically, that he comes back with.
Yeah, I'm like, you could give that kid a little bit more money.
Well,
he's doing a lot of work.
Another thing I was wondering about that movie is... he had a few $100s after they left his dad's house because it was inside of his Common Sense.
Yeah,
the book.
They stole his dad's money.
Stole his dad's money. It didn't seem like they had a lot of money though, because he needed to ask for his 100 back when they were in Urban Outfitters.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think they were I saw $300 and maybe some 20s fall in her lap.
How did they get to all of these places?
They stole the dad's car.
Basically, no money.
So they didn't have to pay for transportation to Philadelphia. They had to pay for clothes, and they had to pay that kid. And then, I don't know if they use any more money, though.
I guess they get to New York.
Because the FBI takes them.
Right. I guess that they get caught in Philly.
Yeah. And then...
But did they spend all of their clothes on Urban Outfitters outfits?
I mean, they could have had money left over. Yeah, but they just didn't get a chance to spend it. No, not hundreds. Just that one single 100. Yeah, it is funny that they went to Urban Outfitters.
There's a cheaper clothing store. They should have gone to Ross.
Go to Target.
Go to Ross for less.
Go to Ross for less. Find a TJ Maxx.
Yeah,
it is hilarious.
There's a huge one in downtown Philly. I can picture it. It's in the mall that's close to all of the locations they went to.
Well, there you go. There is a Target. Well, there is now. I don't know if there would have been back then.
The Ross looks like it's been there for 100 years.
Yeah.
So
it was built by Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, that was Benjamin Franklin's Ross.
That's where he got his shoes, his buckled shoes. I remember this scene always because of that
penny
weird
saved
changing.
Penny earned, you know. He's not spending lots of money on his buckle shoes.
Poor Richard's Almanac has ads for Ross's in it. You shan't spend more farthings than you should at Ross. The changing rooms that, like,
they were, like, up to their shoulders.
It was wild. Because, like, I know they did it because it's, like, kind of sexy because they're changing clothes and they can talk to each other over the top. But it would be a bananas way to have a changing room.
It would be.
Because it was co-ed.
That is how the stalls are in the bathroom at my office at work.
I know, but that's still, like, in a bathroom, which it's still bananas.
It's
but,
still, like,
this was just, like,
out
in the store.
Yeah,
and it was, like, you could look over the top.
Oh, yeah.
And just see her naked in there.
Oh, yeah.
It was bananas.
He probably did.
Maybe he did. And then, like, you know, then they have the whole...
You can tell they like each other because you get the foot shot and she's, like, standing on one foot.
Oh, yeah, she's kind of popping the foot
yeah.
while she's talking to him. Yeah, I don't even remember what they were talking about. Something history. Something history, of course. Riley has his moment here where he's the only one who knows that... we do know, we were talking about time. We do know that it's, like, 3:00.
Right.
Now. So... It's now 3:00. It was nighttime in DC. They drove all the way to Philadelphia. Riley's the only one who remembers that they changed, or that daylight savings time came after this was written.
I guess they slept in between DC and Philly. If it's
they probably like slept in the car or on the way. Maybe.
Yeah,
Riley was sleeping in the back seat
because they couldn't have been. They're already dressed when they go. Oh, Riley is the only one that's at the Franklin Institute.
Yeah.
They're buying their clothes and then he shows up there.
Yeah.
So.
And they could have caught a little nap in there.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just running on adrenaline.
Could be.
So yeah, they realize they need to go find the Liberty Bell, but this is where Ian's group gets confused because they go to where the Liberty Bell is now situated in Independence Hall, I think.
It's in its. I mean, like now,
it's like in a museum now.
Yeah.
That is like the Liberty Bell Museum, and if you look past the Liberty Bell, you can see where it used to hang.
Yeah.
So, they went to the church. They find these magical bifocals that Benjamin Franklin invented that have different colored lenses. They're very steampunk,
very old. I mean, a lot of things Benjamin Franklin invented were pretty steampunk.
Yeah, he is Mr. Steampunk, really.
Yeah.
Which is true because he believed a lot of things he invented or worked with were like steam powered. So this was the first film that had footage from inside that Liberty Bell Museum. Because it had just been built. It actually wasn't done being built because like now there are like shades in that window to protect it from the sun, which they weren't in this scene yet. The other thing I learned is that like they couldn't obviously go into like Independence Hall. They don't allow people to shoot anything in a lot of these historical places. So they shot this in Knott's Berry Farm because they have a section that's like independent or like I guess colonial American themed. So they shot a lot of this stuff in there, which I think is kind of wild. And they use their fancy bifocals to find hidden writing on the Declaration of Independence.
But they don't think to change the colors.
They only look through one color and then they go, great, we got it, let's go. And they don't look through any of the other lenses. And I'm like, you thought those were just for decoration? Like, what?
Well, it was just raising and lowering the same ones. He only looked through all of them at the same time.
Yeah. I know, but I just mean...
Yeah.
I think I would have thought to try
all
combinations. There's also... Okay, here's the other thing about these clues that, like, it doesn't... Just from, like, a historian's perspective, like, a lot of the misspellings in the clues are, like...
There wasn't standardized spelling at that point yet.
All of the... Because, like, here, at this point, they find the clue here at the wall, but here is spelled with 2 E's, and it ends up leading them to this, like... In New York City, there's, like, Wall Street intersected with, like, DeHere Street, and there's a church there. And that's how he knew, because it had 2 E's. And I'm like, there wasn't standardized spelling yet. Lots of things were misspelled.
Yeah.
So, like, these little misspellings wouldn't necessarily be like, it must be that.
They all were for this movie.
And yet, they were for the movie. Then we have another foot chase scene, where Ian is caught up to them, and they all split up and are running in different directions to try and get away from Ian and his henchmen. It has one of my favorite scenes, which is when they're hiding Abigail and Riley run into some sort of vendor, market hall. And she's hiding behind the meat counter, and the lady is like, unless you are a steak, you do not get to be back here. And she's like, I'm hiding from my husband and my ex-husband, and one of the henchmen standing there, and the lady's like, you can stay as long as you want. So then they get separated. Ben gets snatched by the FBI. The Declaration gets snatched by Ian, and Riley and Abigail are sort of on their own, and they have to figure out how to get Ben back, so they contact Ian. I totally forgot about this whole part.
Oh, where he escapes from the FBI?
Yeah, they take him all the way to New York City. He gets on, was it the Intrepid? I don't know. Some big battleship. And then Ian's team...
He's on, a pier, right?
It was a ship.
Okay.
I think it was one of those, retired naval ships that people can go tour on.
Okay.
Because he goes out he's gonna look over the edge.
There's helicopters everywhere covering up the noise.
Yes. And so he jumps 3 stories down into the water, and then they save him through diving apparatus, and I was like, this is crazy. And then take him... No, they're still in New York City then.
Yes.
So at this point, we've now traveled to New York City. It still seems to be the same day. It could be the next day, but
it's really convenient that it's really convenient that they're in New York. Did he know about Here at the Wall yet? He didn't have the glasses.
He knew about Here at the Wall, but he didn't know.
Oh, he knew because of Abigail and
no,
Riley.
they found the clue here at the wall before they split up, and then later
but Abigail and Riley told him about that clue so that he would know that they would need to go to New York.
No, he saw it when they're on. No, not Ian. Sorry. Ian, you're right. Ian.
Yeah, Ian.
I thought you meant
New York
Ben,
because Abigail and Riley are the ones who got him to help break him out of the FBI's custody.
You are correct. Sorry,
that wasn't super clear.
I was like, no, Ben was there. He saw it.
No.
Yes.
Ian doesn't know about Here at the Wall.
Yeah, so he takes him to the proper spot, and of course, at that point, we find out that Ian and his crew have Ben's dad and Abigail and Riley as hostages. So,
well, Abigail and Riley aren't hostages yet.
They are at this point.
Are they?
Because he goes in the church and they file them in.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, he didn't know they were hostages yet, but they were. And then he's like, "You got to find the treasure, or you don't get all your people back." So they climb through somebody's tomb, and this is when it goes full Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I feel like they should have... I feel like Ian's a risk taker. They're all risk takers, but 200-year-old stairs that look like they're about a mile deep... I feel like they would have had harnesses or something to go down there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they didn't know.
He's already an adventurer.
Right.
He's got that stuff in his truck.
They should have had that, yeah.
He's got that stuff from when they just did that heist.
Right. They should have it in the trunk. They should be able to go get it. Because, the stairs, and then they end up getting on that elevator, and I'm like, the rope?
I don't trust the elevator more than I trust the stairs.
I trust the stairs. I would have trusted the stairs more than the rope, and
the stairs were obviously collapsed. A disaster. Yeah.
Yeah, that was bananas. There was also this thing that happened that always happens in these movies. When they entered this, underground tomb thing, they have those, sheets. Oh, the chandelier was hilarious. They have the, sheets of cobwebs that you only ever see in, movies like this. Like Indiana Jones, The Mummy, there's just, sheets and sheets of cobwebs all over everything that I always just makes me think of these kind of movies.
I feel like they also had those in the crypt underneath Founders Hall at Heidelberg.
Probably. That was mold. Let's be honest. That was probably mold.
It's like those spider webs. I feel like I've walked through forests that had those spider webs. One time I went to
they look like
there was
the
a
ones
forest
you buy for
south
Halloween.
of Pittsburgh. Walking through the woods, just spider webs after spider webs, so much that I was like, I would have to turn around. We can't walk through here.
Oh yeah, the first person always gets on the spider webs.
It was way more than I'd ever encountered before. We
went through this forest in South Carolina, and we would usually be the first people on the trail, and there would be spider webs all over. So the person in the front would literally be carrying a walking stick held out in front of them.
Smart.
Yeah. It was like in Shrek when they make the cotton candy, like spider webs. So they're going through, there's this like crazy mile deep tunnel thing that, and they hear the subway go overhead, and it's like, how would no one find this?
I feel like this would have been found
how would no one
in the 70s when they started, tunneling.
Something would collapse into it.
Oh, yeah.
They would be building something, and there would be a sinkhole because there is a mile dug out underneath central New York. It's
so big, and then, like, that's not even mentioning the treasure chamber.
When they get to the treasure chamber, that thing is truly a mile long and, like, 5 stories tall.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There's no way this could go undetected.
They would have done some kind of thing around that church when they were trying to figure out which way they wanted to build the subways and stuff to discover a mile-deep tunnel.
I feel like there has to be some sort of machinery that they use, or like a radar or something, to make sure that there's no, like, that we can get through this, dig through this, and they would be like, why is there a big empty space in the middle of New York City? Then, this is when Ben just grabs Abigail and kisses her.
Oh, yeah, when they get down to the bottom and they're...
This was before they went down the stairs.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, like they just start down the tunnel and he grabs her and kisses her and neither of them say anything and then they just keep going. It truly was a, like,
it's
we might die.
the only kiss of the movie.
Yeah, they don't even kiss at the end.
I don't think so.
Wow.
They hold hands at the end.
Yeah.
They're, like, together then.
At that point, yeah. The wooden chandelier, which you mentioned, is very cool and very impractical.
It's huge.
It's massive.
And made of wood.
And you, like, light the wood on fire and it burns. And I'm like, that's just a suspended bonfire.
Yeah.
Like, that's what that is. Pieces should be raining down on them.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Way too much fire used in these tunnels.
Yes. And then they have a very harrowing trip down this rickety-ass staircase that turns into an elevator. And then they get down to a dead end, seemingly. And Ben and his father fight, and they yell at Riley, and then Ian and his last remaining henchmen are just gonna leave him there. They're like, give us the next clue, and they're like,
there's no treasure.
There's no treasure, it's just a dead end, and then they're like, fine, we're gonna leave you down here unless you tell us the next clue, and they're like, and then his dad
invents a
whole clue, and I was like, damn, okay.
It was really convincing.
It was extremely convincing. He's like, gotta go to Boston, it has to do with Paul Revere, the lantern, blah, 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 and winding staircase, all this stuff. And so they leave them down there seemingly to die, and nope, they actually knew that there was another room, and they tricked him, which is funny because at the beginning, Ben says to Ian, you've played poker with me, I have no poker face. I can't bluff. And then at the end, he did bluff him.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Ta-da! There's another room, but wait, it's empty. They seemingly find the treasure room. Things are knocked over. It's clearly, like, been ransacked. And they have this whole, like, Ben is like, we failed, there is no treasure. And then he and his dad have a nice...
His dad's like, no, you were right, there was a treasure. Okay, here's the whole thing. Here's my big problem with this movie.
Yes.
So his dad has this moment of, like, regaining his faith in this whole conspiracy thing.
Yeah.
Fine. The entire movie he's been saying it's just going to be clue after clue after clue. However, seemingly... The Charlotte was the first clue, so why would he think that it was going to be clue after clue after clue if he never solved the very first clue in the first place for, like, 200 years?
Yeah, the Gates family did not make it any further than the first clue for 200 years.
Yeah.
So, like, if they had gotten a couple clues and they just kept hitting more
dead
clues,
ends, then like... That makes sense.
That would make sense, but his dad has no idea that it's not, like...
His dad had the Silence Do-Gooder letters for some reason, so they must have figured something out.
Well, he said that was just by chance.
Okay.
Yeah, because they just do history stuff. He's
like a history professor.
They're all obsessed with American history.
But yeah, they never solved the first clue, so I don't understand how he could be so sure that it was just going to be clue after clue after clue forever.
Yeah. He did have the theory that it was all fake because they wanted the British to be distracted.
Right.
Which is, like, a good theory, but again, he has no proof for that because they've never solved the clue that they had. So Yeah, but anyway, we have a moment where he gets to be like, I was wrong, the treasure did exist, like, have a nice bonding moment where they can be like, you did it, but of course we can't.
And now we're gonna band together and find the
and
treasure,
he's like,
and they find it 30 seconds later.
Yeah, because they're like, the treasure existed, that means it still exists, so we'll keep looking. And I'm like, if they ransack the treasure, it would now be scattered around the world. Like, it's in the British Museum now, you know, like, what are you talking about? But, you know, we can't just have it end on a, like, emotional win. We had to actually find the treasure. So they realized that, because they're looking for a back door, he's like, there would be another
They would have
exit,
done an air vent.
An air vent / like, emergency exit. And so they're looking for it, and they open up what they think is the emergency exit, and instead it is like a massive room.
way they get to it, though, is like one of the other things I remembered about this movie, which is that they open the keyhole with the pipe that they found on the Charlotte.
Yes.
And it fits perfectly, and it's very satisfying.
Very satisfying.
I love when they, like, stick the mouth holder in, and then it spins.
And he spins it. It is good. It is good. I'm like, good thing you had that with you.
I want things to fit together. Yeah, good thing they carried... They carried everything, all of the clues with them.
I'm gonna get you one of those, like, little kid, like, boxes that you put, like, the shapes through.
Yes.
Just so you can sit there and fiddle with it.
I'm gonna be like that woman who's like, that one goes in the square hole. No, triangle. Having a panic attack. Hopefully you've seen that TikTok.
Yeah, so they find more treasure than God. Like, there's Egyptian treasure down there. There is Romans, I don't know, anything you can think of is down there. And
it's huge. It's the size of a football field.
You cannot see the end of it. No. It's bigger than a football field because they, like, do the thing, it's like the mummy thing with the mirrors where they, like, light, you know, this thing and the fire races down the whole length of the chamber to illuminate how much treasure there is.
It's very the mummy.
And yeah, and you cannot even see the end of it. So they have a beautiful moment, and then they get out and the FBI is waiting. Is the FBI waiting, or do they call? Oh, he calls them.
Okay.
Because he gets out, a very funny moment where, like,
the guard,
the janitors, or whatever, at the church has just found
the coffin of Parker, whatever, from that clue.
Yeah, from when they entered the tomb, and then suddenly they bust out of another tomb, and he's, like, clearly like, zombies! And they're like, do you have a cell phone? So they call Sadusky, which is a crazy name.
Harvey Keitel, Sadusky.
Harvey Keitel, it's not Sandusky, it's Sadusky. He shows up and they negotiate. He's like, you know, somebody has to go to prison. We can't just, like, let this all go. And of course then we see...
He's got his Freemason ring on.
So Sadusky is actually a Freemason. Because he starts doing a, like... You know, the Freemasons hid this treasure so that, you know, I don't even remember.
It could be shared with everyone.
It could be shared among the people, which is, like, not what they hid it for, clearly. But while he's going on about Freemason history, and Ben's like, how do you know all this? And then he realizes he has a Mason ring on, and he's like, ooh. So he gives him Ian, and...
makes a bunch of other deals with them.
Yeah, makes a bunch of deals. They basically give 99% of the treasure to, like, museums around the world. And then he and Riley split 1%. Abigail gets nothing.
Yeah. Justice for Abigail, because he is talking about the credit for this should go to the Gates family and Riley Poole and then no one else. And Abigail is sitting right there. And I'm like, she did a lot of work here for these last several clues, which was pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
she's the one who got you, like... convinced Ian to, like, save you from the FBI, and, like, she did her part. So they end up with 1%, which I think we figured out would be, like, $100 million.
100 mil.
When he was talking to Sadusky, he mentioned that it's, like, $10 billion worth of treasure.
Yeah, if it's actually $10 billion worth of treasure, then I think it's $100 million would be 1%.
Yeah, so they don't do too bad. This is also a movie where Sean Bean doesn't die.
Sean Bean doesn't die.
He gets arrested.
And Nicolas Cage shrugs at him.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Womp
because
womp.
He's like, he tells the FBI he'll give them Ian. And they're like, how? And he's like, do you have a helicopter? So, like, clearly they, like, fly to Boston to beat Ian there so they can be at this church before he breaks in. And, like, they all swarm in and they're arresting him. And he looks over and, like, Nicolas Cage is in, like, the doorway of this building and he, like, shrugs. And I'm like, that means that he was like, can I come with you so I can rub it in his face? And they said yes. It was one of his conditions. Yeah, and then that's that's it. We end with Riley has bought a very fancy car, and
Nicolas Cage has bought the Founding Fathers mansion.
So yeah, he bought some Founding Fathers mansion, seems to live there with Abigail. She gives him a treasure map, I guess, to find sex at the end, seemingly.
She's with him right there.
No, I was like, I hope you don't need a map. And that's it. That's the end.
It's great.
Yeah. Oh, here's a fun thing that I didn't think about until...
Yeah, what are our... I'm sure you've got some fun
I sprinkled
facts.
in some fun facts already while we were talking, but one of them is... Oh, here we go. The movie suggests that something is written on the back of the Declaration of Independence, obviously. The actual writing on the back of the Declaration of Independence reads, Original Declaration of Independence dated 4th July 1776. It's on the bottom of the document upside down. We don't know who wrote it, but it's known that it was stored, like, rolled up, so it's likely they wrote it after they rolled it up and stored it so they could pull
Abigail
it out
does say that that's what's on the back of it.
Yes, yeah, they do say that. But this is the thing I was going to say. At the beginning, Christopher Plummer is saying they knew they had to make sure the treasure would never fall into the hands of the British, so they devised a series of clues and maps to the location. This whole movie is about keeping it away from Ian, who's British.
Oh.
So, I feel like that was probably deliberate.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it's a bananas movie. Like, why would the Founding Fathers have, like,
they had so much
the Library of
going
Alexandria down there. Like, it's crazy. When did they have time to build this?
They had the whole Revolutionary War happening.
It would take, like, 100 years.
Oh, yeah, easily.
And then to do all this, and it's like, yeah. But I love it. It was great.
Do you want to dive into some Rotten Tomatoes scores?
Yes.
What do you think this movie got?
I think...
Critics and audiences are different.
Okay. I'm going to guess it's got a high audience score. And I'm going to say the audience score is like 88.
The audience score is a little lower than that.
Okay.
It's 76.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that
76 is still fresh, though.
It is, yeah. But I thought most people liked this. I was going to guess that the critics were lower, but now I'm not sure. Maybe the critics are in the 80s?
The critics are much lower.
Really?
The critics are 46%, which is not fresh. Not
crazy.
fresh.
Because, like, not just it being an enjoyable movie to watch, but also I feel like it's just a pretty tight movie as far as, like, script and act and, like...
It doesn't feel... It is, like, 2 hours and 12 minutes long.
It's long.
It doesn't feel that long when you're watching it. It
it's
does
very
move
well
along
paced.
pretty well. Yeah.
The acting's good, good cinematography and score. Like, I wonder what the bad scores are for.
Well, I remember disliking this movie when I saw it.
Yeah, you disliked it for some reason. I've always liked it.
I think... So I think weirdly Nicolas Cage's performance seems more subdued now that I've seen more Nicolas Cage movies.
This is
and
probably...
at the time I was like, he's such a bad actor.
Oh, interesting. I think, like...
That was my Nicolas Cage take initially when I first saw this movie, like when I was like 14 or 15, whatever.
See, this is like one of his more naturalistic roles.
Which I think almost is worse in a way, because... It's sort of, like, on the edge in some parts. So some of, like, with him being so normal most of the time.
Yeah, but for this type of character, weird. Like, if you think about, I
think his voice kind of used to rub me the wrong way, too.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about, like, the adventurer character. That you have, like, Indiana Jones and, like, Rick O'Connell and, like... Tom Hanks in Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
They're all this sort of type where they're, like... studious and lecture a lot, but then also have like kind of silly over the top moments.
Yeah.
So I feel like he fits really well into that genre, and it's sort of a vanilla performance for Cage, but like for a male lead actor in this kind of role, I thought he did what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that it's got a low score.
Yeah.
So I'm Justice for National Treasure.
Justice for National Treasure. Yeah, I'm kind of curious myself, like, what the main critics' reviews were. It was, like, the critics' consensus sentence is National Treasure is no treasure, but it's a fun ride for those who can forgive its highly improbable plot.
I mean, yeah.
It does have a pretty improbable plot.
The plot's crazy.
But I feel like that's kind of true for a lot of adventure stories.
Again, for adventure stories, I mean, there were no supernatural elements in this one. And, like, Indiana Jones and The Mummy both have supernatural elements. So, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just a genre movie, and it does the genre well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Cheesy.
I recommend you see it. And at some point soon, we'll watch the second one.
But I think we're going to watch the new one first.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember the second National Treasure that well.
I don't either. I am not 100% sure I saw it.
You might not have seen it because you didn't like the first one.
Yeah.
I remember, like, 3 scenes in it. One where he gets to Cage out, and then I remember where they end up at the end because it is bananas.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
So the next one we're going to watch, what's the name of that movie again?
The Arcadian.
Arcadian.
Yeah, it's a horror movie. 2 horror movies out this summer I'm very excited about. So yeah.
Arcadian, and then probably National Treasure 2.
Yeah. But before that,
we have Inside the Cage.
Oh man, we're running out. We gotta come up with more stuff to do. We now just try to stall until the other person has to do it.
With something?
So
I was like, can I do something National Treasure themed? I don't know what those are.
So our Cage news of the week, there's a ton of Cage news we could talk about, but I'm most excited about this one.
This sounds wild. I'm pretty excited for it as well.
A movie called The Carpenter's Son is set to film this summer and be released next year. It stars Nicolas Cage, and it is a horror movie set during Jesus Christ's childhood. So, just let that sink in for a minute.
It's because he wanted to play Pontius Pilate in Jesus Christ Superstar.
I wonder if it'd be too soon for Pontius Pilate. I feel like he's got to be a bad guy.
Right?
Yeah.
He can't be boy Jesus because he's far too old.
Yeah, so the synopsis is, the carpenter's son tells the dark story of a family hiding out in Roman Egypt. The son, known only as the boy, I wonder who that is driven to doubt by another mysterious child and rebels against his guardian.
He's the other mysterious child.
Ooh, maybe he's gonna be the carpenter.
The carpenter, whatever that is.
It's
Joseph,
it's
right?
Joseph.
But
revealing inherent powers and a fate beyond his comprehension. As he exercises his own power, the boy and his family become the target of horrors, natural and divine. So this is apparently going to be based or inspired by the apocryphal infancy gospel of Thomas, which dates back to the 2nd century AD and talks about Jesus' childhood. I don't know that much about the lost gospels. I'm assuming this is like a lost gospel that no one's read, but we have records of. Yeah, because I mean in the Bible it jumps from Jesus' birth to you got a couple scenes of him in childhood and then he's 33.
Yeah. I feel like I remember my dad reading some books about some of the lost gospels.
Oh yeah,
telling us about some, like, there's like the one that's not in there about Jesus killing the bird and then bringing it back to a life when he was a teenager.
Oh, interesting.
Like just kind of toying with life and death.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that one too.
Yeah,
I feel like these were popular around I feel like the lost gospels was a thing around like when Left Behind and the Da Vinci Code were coming out, and it was
people were kind of into that stuff.
Yeah, because I vaguely remember them.
It is kind of interesting because it's like the Bible wasn't fully composed until like a good
because it was
there was like years after this stuff would have happened.
Yeah, there was like some sort of early Catholic Church meeting where they decided which books would go in and what's not. Right. And I feel like one of the lost gospels is supposed to be like Mary's gospel. Like there were some more like women head gospels that they did not include because they hated women. But we'll find out more about that before we watch the movie next year.
We got time.
We got time to become scholars, Bible scholars.
We certainly became colonial American history scholars for National Treasure.
I did today. I sure did today. My dad would be proud. Yeah, so excited about that. Excited to watch some new Cage horror movies.
Woo!
But in the meantime,
stay cagey.
Bye!
Bye!
Hey, do you know about the USA? Do you know about the government? Can you tell me about the Constitution?